No, hello, hello, hello. How are we today? Slight change of plans today. Hello. Little slight change of plans today. Okay. Because I'm streaming so late. And have some things I also have to take care of. So no Borderlands today. Unfortunately. You'll have to be next time we do it. But what we can do is right now we can watch the fun plan. Because I'm going to eat dinner first before I work on some stuff. But yes. So let me switch over to here. Well, as always, make sure you guys go watch go sub to the fun plan. They're really cool and really goated and stuff like that. Yes. We're going to watch some Defun Clan and stuff like that. No. That's some stuff I have to work on, but for now, we do Defun Clan. Needed.
Come on, I'll show. What's Fast Pass Plus?
I mean, if it's too loud or too quiet, stuff like that, you know the gist. The usual.
You ask? Come on, I'll show ya. It makes your stay a treat. Reserve that meet and greet. Come on, get it now. Make your trip a wow, it's sweet. That is technically my second favorite Fast Pass parody song, but it's really not even a competition. In January of 2013, Disney officially announced the creation of Buy Magic Plus, along with the introduction of the new high-tech wristbands, now renamed to Magic Bands. X-Pass was also announced, renamed to FastPass Plus. The system had been altered slightly, and it would allow guests to book 3 Fast Passes in advance.
This static number applied to all 4 parks rather than XPass's proposed dynamic system. As rumored, guests staying at Walt Disney World Resort hotels would get early access to FastPasses. Hotel guests would be able to book their FastPasses 60 days in advance, while everyone else could book theirs 30 days in advance. When guests went to book their FastPasses, they were given a list of attractions that had FastPass available. They then selected 3 of them. No more, no less. If the guest didn't select 3, the system picked 2 at random. After the selections were made, the computer would intelligently create multiple itineraries that guests could choose from. After this, guests could still edit the selections, either by changing the time of the FastPass reservation or by selecting another attraction within the initial attraction's time frame. FastPasses were now redeemed with Magic Bands or guest park tickets, but during the initial rollout, paper FastPass kiosks would still be available. My Magic Plus was introduced in phases throughout 2013 and early 2014, and issues with the system were immediate, apparent, and overwhelming. Reportedly, those on the rollout team and IT pleaded to executives to pull the plug, as the tech was making operations much worse. To which executives essentially responded, "We know, but we're in too deep." Spotty Wi-Fi, malfunctioning Magic Band readers, website crashes, an at times unusable mobile app, and many more issues plagued the system and thus the resort. There are too many issues with My Magic Plus to discuss, but if you're curious, here are a few. The biggest disappointment with the system was that the tech was so broken that it was never able to take the guest experience to the next level. At best, it worked, but it never impressed in the ways that the team had hoped. And many of the more ambitious plans for the technology, such as leveraging data to give guests recommendations or even being able to communicate to cast members via Magic Bands that it was a guest's birthday, could never be implemented because IT was too busy keeping the entire system afloat to ever have time to take it to the next step. Most damning, by and large, cast members hated it, and it made many positions much more frustrating to work at. It automated few, if any, jobs, and because of the issues, Disney had to triple the size of its customer support department. Despite all of the issues, Disney
Yikes.
publicly labeled My Magic Plus a success. And Staggs even said that thanks to the system's ability to distribute guests more evenly throughout the parks, Magic Kingdom's maximum capacity was increased by 5,000 people, although it is unclear whether this has anything to do with the new Fantasyland expansion that also debuted around this time. Staggs was determined to be the winner of Iger's competition, and Rasulo stepped down from CFO in 2015, while Staggs was promoted to Chief Operating Officer, with Bob Chapek, the president of Disney's Consumer Products Division, promoted to head of the parks. Staggs would unexpectedly leave the company the following year, with no confirmed reason for his departure. Overall, My Magic Plus and Magic Bands streamlined the guest experience as much as it stalled it. Some guests loved it, some guests hated it, and others simply didn't care. In many ways, the introduction of the technology was a wash. A $1 billion wash. But what about the new program's headlining feature, FastPass Plus? By the end of its life in 2014, the original paper FastPass system was still operating off of a Windows software from the late 90s, so the update in technology, as buggy as it could be, was definitely a welcome one. But FastPass Plus was much more than its touchpoints. It was an entirely new system, and like the original FastPass, it was a huge learning curve for guests. The new system could only be accessed on the website, on the My Disney Experience app, or with a cast member at one of the FastPass Plus kiosks set up throughout the park. During the initial rollout, this led to huge lines for the FastPass Plus kiosks. Or to put it another way, there was a line to get the pass to skip the lines. While guests adjusted to the new system, the system itself was
Hi,
undergoing
Julian.
constant adjustment. In November of 2013, Epcot and Hollywood Studios transitioned to a tiered
I'm eating dinner and we're watching The Sun Clan. But hello, welcome to the stream.
FastPass Plus system, in which the park's most popular attractions were separated from the rest and only one popular attraction could be held at a time. In February of 2014, the transition to FastPass Plus was complete, and all paper FastPass kiosks were removed from the park. Rumoredly, the speed of the transition was part of an effort to force guest adoption of the new technology in order to prove its efficacy. 2 months later, the system was altered once again to allow guests to receive additional FastPasses after they redeemed their first 3. Once guests redeemed their third FastPass for the day, they could go to a FastPass Plus kiosk and choose one additional pass. After they redeemed this additional one, they could select another and repeat the process until the end of the day. The next major change would not come until mid-2016, when the itinerary system was dropped and now guests had to choose each of their FastPass times themselves. This also removed the 3 initial FastPass rule, allowing guests to select only 1 or 2 FastPasses without forcing them to start with 3. Finally, guests can now choose their additional FastPasses from the My Disney Experience app rather than only at the kiosks. It would not be until 2017 that Disneyland would update their FastPass system. Rumoredly, Disneyland was set to receive My Magic Plus, Magic Bands, FastPass Plus, and all, but the major issues with the system resulted in the expansion being canceled. Instead, Disneyland would receive an entirely different system called MaxPass. For $10 a day, visitors could book FastPasses from their phone, except they could only do so when inside the park. Like Paper FastPass, users could only receive 1 FastPass at a time, unable to receive additional passes until the first return window had arrived, or 90 minutes after the initial pass was booked. The system received mixed reviews upon announcement, but after installation, many warmed up to it, believing that MaxPass was superior to FastPass Plus, which by this point was the subject of a heated debate. FastPass Plus was a divisive program, and many have strong opinions on it. There are pros and cons to the system, so I'd like to take this moment to examine the biggest ones. Before we get into this, I want to mention that we will not be discussing or factoring in other ways guests are able to cut the line, such as with tour guides or the guest assistance program. These systems have their own complex histories during this period that, while interesting and important, are not factored into this list or this discussion on FastPass in general. That said, here are some of the pros and cons to FastPass Plus. Pro number 1, you get to skip the line more, obviously. Pro number 2, improved traffic flow throughout the park. One of the biggest downsides to the original FastPass system was that guests had to travel to an attraction's entrance to obtain a paper FastPass just to return to the same location when it was time to ride. This backtracking was causing major traffic flow issues, so allowing guests to make reservations from their phone eliminated this unnecessary foot traffic. Plus, it was more convenient for guests. Pro number 3, reduction in length of stay. As park attendance climbed throughout the early 2000s, fast passes for major attractions ran out earlier in the day, so in turn, guests arrived earlier in the day, resulting in more people arriving in the morning and staying for longer, which increased the amount of people in each park. With FastPass Plus, guests would know 3 of their FastPass reservations before arriving, which would encourage guests that had FastPasses for later in the day not to arrive until later, thus relieving morning and midday crowds. Plus, guests no longer had to wake up early to rope drop FastPasses, allowing for a more relaxing vacation. Con number 1, irrelevant FastPasses. In the mad dash to add as many attractions to the FastPass system as possible, the implementation of certain attractions was less thought out than others. For instance, FastPasses for Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor and Muppet Vision 3D rarely saved guests any time, as these attractions were theater shows that held guests in large waiting areas before the next showing. Guests who had FastPasses for these types of attractions soon learned that all their FastPass did was give them a different entrance to the same giant room where they had to wait with other guests. Con number 2, long FastPass lines. Many using FastPass Plus reported waiting longer after redeeming their FastPass than they did with the original FastPass system. The original intention of FastPass was for guests to wait no more than 15 minutes before boarding, but with FastPass Plus, guests were now having to wait over half an hour at certain points. This was in part due to the fact that FastPass Plus was basically guaranteeing that an attraction would be operating 60 days in advance. As previously explained, Paper FastPass had a built-in response to downtimes, or at the very least a ride operator could throw a bunch of FastPasses in the trash to give operations some wiggle room. This was much more difficult with FastPass Plus. When an attraction went down, it might have already had an entire day's worth of FastPasses distributed. If the downtime was significant, anyone with FastPasses during the downtime were given an any-use FastPass with which they could use on any ride they chose, which backed up FastPass lines at other attractions throughout the park. If the ride was delayed but did not completely shut down, this caused a backup in the FastPass line for that ride. When there was a backup, the FastPass to standby ratio had...
I'm not muted, I'm here. I'm eating dinner. Hi, Galaxy. I just sleep well, I probably say hi. Okay, thank you for stopping by.
to be
Sleep
altered
well.
to get the FastPass line under control. This was the same compensation plan as Paper FastPass, but the new system seemed to be dispersing any use FastPasses much more frequently, leading to Disney eventually putting limits on these passes. Con number 3, the fast pass to standby ratio. We have yet to discuss the fast pass to standby ratio in detail. It is no secret that of the two lines, the fast pass line was given priority over the standby line. In fact, that's the whole point. The question is, how much was fast pass favored over standby? There is no definitive answer to this, because it was different for every attraction and ultimately up to the cast members stationed at the merge point.
I've ridden this
Bruce
ride.
Lavelle recounted that this was the most difficult position to train, and it was the key position to getting the original fast pass system to work. The cast member not only had to keep the attraction's ratio steady, but they had to manage the expectations and frustrations of two very different lines of people experiencing two very different ways. The fast pass to standby ratio cited on the original fast pass patent was
Yes, I'm getting
80-20,
dinner real
or in
quick.
other words, for every 4 fast pass guests, 1 standby guest was let through. This is consistent with cast member and guest recollections of the system at the time. The 4-to-1 ratio remained standard after the transition to FastPass Plus, but with backups occurring much more frequently, cast members at merge points had to modify the FastPass to standby disparity more often. There were 3 phases cast members had to go through. Phase 1 was standard operating procedure with a 4-to-1 ratio. If there was a backup in the FastPass line, cast members would go to Phase 2, which was a 20-to-1 ratio. And if the backup was significant enough, Phase 3 would be initiated, which was for every 1 standby guest, 100 FastPass guests were let through. Once the FastPass line was under control, cast members would return to Phase 1. But the disparity of Phase 2 and 3 was infuriating to guests waiting in the standby queue, which during these phases would almost completely stop. There was also a psychological gamble to FastPass. Disney was banking on the idea that guests would not remember the 3 or 4 times they were cut in line. They would just remember the one time they got to cut the line. This gamble seemed to pay off, but they were also working against another issue with the psychology of queuing. Now that FastPass was slowing down the standby line, the pace at which guests moved through the queue was much slower. In most cases, people prefer to spend 20 minutes walking at a steady pace rather than spend 20 minutes standing still. But the latter was not happening frequently on FastPass attractions. In the pre-FastPass days, lines often stretched out of an attraction's dedicated queue. But it is important to remember that back then, these lines were moving 3, 4, or 5 times as fast. With FastPass, guests found that the amount of people waiting in the standby line was less than before, despite the wait time being the same or longer. Con number 4, FastPass availability. After guests became accustomed to the FastPass Plus system, it did not take long for them to figure out the best ways to use it. In turn, FastPass availability was running out extremely fast for popular rides. Practically every day of the year, popular attractions would run out of FastPass availability completely before the day of operation. This was the case for 5 attractions at the Magic Kingdom, 3 at Epcot, 3 at Hollywood Studios, 2 at Animal Kingdom, and 4 meet and greets throughout the resort. This meant that nearly 17 experiences were out of FastPasses before guests even arrived to the park. This prompted Disney to hold back a small amount of FastPasses until the day of, where they would then drop these held-back passes at different points throughout the day. This also gave them the option to not drop these additional passes at all if the attraction was experiencing downtime. Still, unless a guest got lucky and snagged a FastPass during one of these random drops, or after another guest modified or canceled theirs, if they wanted a FastPass for a popular ride, they had to plan in advance. Which leads me to pro number 4 and con number 5, planning. Many people love planning their Disney trips and do a lot of research and groundwork beforehand. My Magic Plus and FastPass Plus significantly increase the amount of planning necessary to have a consistently good experience at Walt Disney World. FastPass Plus was supposed to give guests the option to plan their trip in advance, but in practice, the system forced guests to plan their trip in advance or risk not getting to experience the most popular attractions without an extreme standby wait time. Hotel guests could book an entire trip's worth of FastPasses 60 days out from their check-in date. This allowed some guests to book as many as 70 days in advance, resulting in certain attractions like Slinky Dog Dash at Hollywood Studios and Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom running out of FastPasses even before the 60-day mark. Securing these FastPasses practically became a sport, and everyone had tips and tricks to snag those passes.
All right, so we're going to start with prep you need to do beforehand. So you get 3 FastPass Plus reservations per day.
So once you hit the 60-day mark from your first night at your hotel, you can actually go on and book FastPasses for the whole length of your stay.
Start with the last day of your vacation first.
So the further out you can make it, the more likely you're able to get it. Also, if you take a longer trip, you're more likely to get it too. So if you need an excuse to take a longer trip, there you have it.
So on my 60 mark day, I log on to My Disney Experience and I can start making FastPass selections at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. or 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is where I live.
Because you want to make sure that you are logged in about 5 minutes before your FastPass window opens.
If at all possible, book them early in the day. That way you can get more fast passes for different parks later in the day.
You save that first hour of the day to ride some of the smaller rides, but then you try to set up your 3 fast passes as soon as possible after that hour, as close as possible together.
I have filled in a vague idea of what I want to do.
I make a FastPass Plus list with all of the days, times, and rides I'm hoping to reserve.
All it takes is some luck. That is a huge part of it. Please do not be thinking that this is like a super guarantee.
So I guarantee you, by the time your 30-day window comes up for off-property guests,
Flight of Passage,
gone. Slinky Dog,
Gone.
Seven Dwarfs,
gone.
Keep checking the app. Seriously, keep refreshing. Last minute fast passes pop up all the time.
You'll be able to click hour by hour, and if you just keep clicking hour by hour, it will reload and reload and reload and reload. So that's called pounding the app by seasoned veterans of Disney World.
And there are also tickets that are available, like after 5 p.m. tickets. Okay, what you can do is buy these tickets, and essentially what that gains you is 3 extra fast passes. And I would put this under a dummy name on, and then what you can do is reuse it the next day because you never entered the park with this.
And I think that's it. We did it.
We did it.
Some savvy guests that knew how to use the system loved the new FastPass, and the extra planning was a welcome activity, adding even more anticipation to their upcoming trip while also guaranteeing certain experiences during it. Others knew how to use the system, but did so begrudgingly, disliking the overplanning and longing for the days of flexibility. Many more guests did not know the tips and tricks of the system, and thus missed out on the most valuable fast passes, leaving them with only one option if they wanted to experience these popular rides. Con number 6, standby. By far the biggest complaint with FastPass Plus is the belief that the new system drastically increased wait times throughout the park. When the system was first introduced, Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, 2 attractions that did not previously offer paper FastPass, reported consistently higher wait times. On the other end of the spectrum, Space Mountain and Expedition Everest saw their standby waits decrease slightly. As the system was fully implemented, standby waits appeared to be longer, and for years, fans have argued back and forth whether or not FastPass increases or decreases standby waits, increases or decreases overall waits, or increases or decreases the amount of attractions a guest can experience in a day. Unfortunately, it is nearly impossible to answer these questions. Statistics like these have not been reported by Disney, and wait times before FastPass were not consistently recorded. And even if they were, it would be unfair for numerous reasons to compare these numbers. Even doing the math ourselves would be almost impossible. The equations necessary to determine what a virtual queue system such as FastPass does to a theme park is much too complicated for a spreadsheet. In order to answer these questions, we would actually need to create a computer simulation, like one of the ones Bruce Laval created during his time at the company. Even then, this is no small task. Someone would need to pay an industrial engineer to create a complex computer simulation of a theme park, populated with agents, all with unique preferences, riding attractions of varying capacities and run times in order to compare and contrast wait times, number of rides ridden, and other factors with and without a virtual queue system, just to get to the bottom of this ridiculously niche curiosity. Hey everybody, I made a theme park in the computer. Welcome to Shapeland, where all the guests are dots and all the rides are shapes. Here's how it works. I decide how many people are going to visit the park each day. They then arrive based on an arrival schedule that is similar to that of a real theme park, with most of the guests arriving in the first few hours of the day and few guests arriving in the last few hours of the day. From there, each guest
If you have a theme park and you're arriving at 7 p.m., you're kind of dumb.
guests arriving in the last few hours of the day. From there, each guest independently makes decisions on what they are going to do. To ensure variability, there are 7 different archetypes of guests: ride enthusiast, ride fan, average tourist, activity fan, annual pass holder, entitled annual pass holder, and vlogger. Each of these archetypes determines 3 factors. The first is stay time preference. This dictates how long the guest wants to stay at the park. For instance, the ride enthusiast archetype wants to stay at the park for 9 hours, while the average tourist archetype only wants to stay around 7 hours. The second factor is balking point. The ride enthusiast has a balking point of 4 hours, meaning that they refuse to ride a ride that has over a 4-hour wait. On the other hand, the average tourist refuses to wait more than 2 hours for a ride. The annual pass holder
Sometimes
won't
long
wait more
times,
than
though.
30 minutes, and the vlogger won't wait more than 15. The third factor is attraction preference. This determines whether a guest wants to ride an attraction or do an activity such as eat at a restaurant or go gift shopping. Obviously, the ride enthusiast much prefers attractions, but the average tourist is more open to doing activities. After a guest enters the park, they will begin flipping coins and rolling dice, weighted based on their own preferences. For instance, this guest's name is Bernadotte. Bernadotte is the average tourist. They are open to both attractions and activities. They will only wait around 2 hours for a ride, and they will stay for 7 hours. Once in the park, Bernadotte decides whether they want to do an attraction or an activity based on a weighted coin flip. Let's say they choose to do an attraction. They then decide which attraction to do. Bernadotte's decision is now based on a weighted die roll. Each attraction in the park has a different popularity ranking, and the more popular the attraction, the more likely it is that Bernadotte wants to ride it. Let's say Bernadotte decides to ride Shapeland's most popular attraction, the Triangle. Since Shapeland is currently operating off the original FastPass system, Bernadotte first looks at the posted standby wait time. If the wait time is under 30 minutes, they join the standby line. If it is over 30 minutes, Bernadotte will check if the attraction has FastPass. If it doesn't, whether it be because the attraction doesn't offer it or because there are no more available for the day, Bernadotte will make sure that the current standby wait is less than their balking point. If it is, they will join the standby line. If it isn't, they will go back to the hub and decide to do a different attraction. In the case that the attraction does offer FastPass and still has some available, Bernadotte will grab one and be assigned a return time. The equation that determines Bernadotte's return time is the same one used at the original FastPass kiosks. With their spot in the virtual queue secured, Bernadotte can now go back to the hub and repeat their logic over again, deciding whether to do an attraction or an activity, deciding which attraction or activity to do, but this time, Bernadotte ensures that they will still have time to make it back for their FastPass. Bernadotte's stay time preference is 7 hours, so after they have been at the park for 7 hours, they will choose to leave and their day at Shapeland will be finished. This same logical and preference-based progression is repeated for every single guest in the park over the course of the operating day. At the end of each run, the simulation gives me a plethora of data to comb through. Almost everything in my simulation is dynamic. I can change the number of attractions, attraction capacity, runtime, popularity, and whether each individual attraction has FastPass or not. I can change the behavior archetypes, the park's arrival schedule, and even how many guests are able to utilize the FastPass system. The simulation is by no means perfect, and there are many factors that it does not take into account, such as these. I ran the simulation 3 times, one with no FastPass, one with the original paper FastPass, and one with the system that simulates FastPass Plus to the best of the simulation's ability. More info on that here. So after obtaining and organizing the results, some fascinating patterns emerged. First, let's discuss what results we will be looking at. Whenever discussing the pros and cons of FastPass, 3 factors always seem to emerge: standby wait times, overall wait times, and average number of attractions ridden. Thanks to Shapeland, we finally have answers as to how virtual queue systems affect these results when all other factors remain constant. Let's first examine standby wait times. These are the average standby waits for Shapeland's 10 attractions throughout a 12-hour operating day, when there is no FastPass implemented throughout the park. As you can see, we still get huge waits. The Triangle has a wait of over 3 hours because everybody wants to ride the Triangle. There are 2 rides, the Square and the Circle, that have 1-hour waits, while the Hexagon and Octagon have no waits and are typically walk-ons. Let's see what happens when we add FastPass to the 3 most popular attractions and operate the park with the original paper FastPass system. Wait times increase for every single attraction. The Triangle's average standby wait increases by 15 minutes, the Hexagon is no longer a walk-on, but the Octagon still is. Now let's simulate FastPass Plus. Again, every wait time increases, except for one. The standby wait for the most popular ride, the Triangle, is 20 minutes less than with the original FastPass system, and 5 minutes less than with no FastPass. The reason for this is clear when you look at the wait times throughout the rest of the park. The Octagon, which was a walk-on with both no FastPass and the original FastPass system, now has a 15-minute wait. The Oval has jumped from a 5-minute wait with no Fast Pass to a 35-minute wait under Fast Pass Plus. Hexagon, which was a walk-on with no Fast Pass, now has an hour wait with Fast Pass Plus. This pattern can be seen throughout the park when Fast Pass Plus is added. It is safe to say that overall, both Fast Pass and especially Fast Pass Plus increases standby wait times throughout a park. The average standby wait with no Fast Pass was 41 minutes. With Fast Pass Plus, it is now 67 minutes. If Fast Pass was completely removed from the Walt Disney World parks, wait times would almost certainly decrease. But this is not the full story, because many guests are not waiting in the standby line, they're skipping them. Let's now examine the average overall wait. This takes into account both the guests waiting in standby and the guests waiting between 5 and 15 minutes in the Fast Pass line. For our purposes, we're not considering the time in between guests obtaining their Fast Pass and redeeming it as part of their wait. While in the original Fast Pass system, guests are technically waiting during this period, their ability to multitask would throw off these calculations, resulting in some guests being able to wait more hours than there are in a day. And it would make Fast Pass look like it increased waits for everybody, which is not fair to the system. Also, with Fast Pass Plus, how would you even do this? Did this guy wait 60 days to ride 7 Dwarfs? I guess, technically, but that might throw things off a bit. Anyways, the average posted wait in Shapeland with no Fast Pass is 41 minutes. So if a guest did every attraction in the park in a single day, their average wait per ride would be 41 minutes. However, few guests actually do this, and most gravitate toward the popular attractions. So Shapeland guests actually find themselves waiting, on average, 58 minutes per attraction. With the original paper Fast Pass, the average posted standby wait was 48 minutes, but the overall average wait, when factoring in both guest standby line decisions and those skipping the line entirely with Fast Pass, was only 40 minutes, 18 minutes less than without Fast Pass. But how is this possible? As we've discussed, service rate or capacity is determined mainly by design and operation, and it's nearly impossible to increase an attraction's maximum capacity after it's been constructed. You can't safely put more ride cars on Space Mountain or make it go faster. It wasn't designed for that. So when we add paper Fast Pass to Shapeland, Shapeland's top rides such as the Triangle and the Square see little to no increase in the number of riders, because they are already serving the maximum number of guests. However, other rides at Shapeland are not operating at maximum capacity. The reason for the increase in the average amount of rides ridden goes back to what Bruce Lavelle said about Fast Pass backfilling less attended attractions, and it brings up a new concept within queuing. We know about how capacity and arrival rate can affect a wait time in different ways, but what we have not discussed is the concept of a negative wait time. Now, a wait time cannot be negative in the sense that you can get time back. For instance, I can never give you back the time you've wasted watching this video. What I mean by a negative wait time is that when an attraction is not filling its capacity, it is losing capacity. Look at it this way. Let's say a ride has a capacity of 1,000 guests per hour, but only 500 people per hour ride it. It could be considered that this attraction has a wait time of negative 30 minutes, meaning that 30 minutes worth of people, in this case 500, could show up throughout the hour and the attraction's wait would still be 0 minutes, because these additional guests are merely filling empty seats on the ride. You might recall that this was one of the problems with the original reservation system pitch from the mid-90s. If a guest missed their reservation, they left an empty seat and thus the attraction lost capacity. Fast Pass not only avoids this problem, but it actually helps other attractions at the park. Without Fast Pass, 1,900 guests rode the Octagon. With paper Fast Pass, 4,800 guests rode the Octagon, an increase of over 150%. But the average posted wait time never breaks 0, because these people are filling empty seats and increasing the capacity of the ride. This explains why with Fast Pass, despite most attractions' standby waits rising, guests on average waited less, because unlike with no Fast Pass, guests were actively being pushed to attractions with 0 waits, which dropped the average overall wait per attraction. However, with Fast Pass Plus, this 0 wait threshold is broken in most cases, as with the Octagon, which previously went from a walk-on to an average of a 15-minute wait. The average standby wait in Shapeland with Fast Pass Plus is 67 minutes, but the overall average wait per attraction was 42
How many minutes is it?
This is interesting, because while more people are skipping the line more often than with the original Fast Pass, the rise in standby waits throughout the park are so significant that there is no change to the overall wait. In fact, the average overall wait per attraction with paper Fast Pass was 2 minutes less than Fast Pass Plus. Fast Pass does reduce average overall wait times by encouraging guests to go to underutilized attractions, so long as those exist. Finally, let's look at the average number of attractions ridden. And if you've been paying attention, you should already know the answer to this one. In the park with no fast pass, guests ride an average of 3.31 rides. But really, the distribution looks like this. 22% of guests ride 2 rides, 21% ride 3, 16% ride 4, and the percentage declines from there. You can also see that around 13% of guests only ride 1 ride and 3% ride none. These are mostly people that favor activities and have a limited amount of time in the park. When the original Fast Pass system is added, the amount of attractions ridden increases, going from 3.31 to 3.77. With Fast Pass Plus, we again see an increase, jumping to an average of 4.23 rides per guest per day. On average, almost every single guest gets to ride 1 additional ride with the new system. This is significant and proves Fast Pass Plus's merit as a tool for guest distribution. But it's not the full story. This is the distribution graph that we viewed earlier for when Shapeland has no Fast Pass implemented. This is what it looks like with Fast Pass Plus when the average amount of attractions ridden increases from 3.31 to 4.23, assuming that the distribution is even and the system is fair to all guests. However, that is not Fast Pass Plus. This is the actual distribution graph for Shapeland under Fast Pass Plus. As you can see, more people experience less attractions, and more people experience a lot more attractions, while less people are able to do what could be considered a reasonable amount of attractions, in this case 3 to 7 in a single day. With Fast Pass Plus, more guests are able to experience 8, 9, 10, 11, and someone found out how to do 39 rides in a day. These are people that got fast passes for long waits like the triangle and spent most of their time riding shorter waits like the octagon over and over again. Meanwhile, the amount of people riding only 2, 1, or even 0 attractions is up from no fast pass and is far more than in the ideal Fast Pass Plus distribution. This is because the waits for rides like the triangle, square, and circle are so long that if a guest chose to wait in it, they didn't have time to do anything else. Other guests want to ride rides, but they don't want to wait over an hour. So if they enter during midday, they instead choose to eat a meal, gift shop, and then leave because the waits are so high throughout the park. So yes, Fast Pass and Fast Pass Plus increases the average amount of attractions ridden per guest per day. It's a system that pushes people to go fill empty seats around the park. And as a guest distribution tool, Fast Pass and Fast Pass Plus works. But in practice, from a guest perspective, the system benefits those that use the system and know how to use it well, while those that don't use it or don't know how to use it well have it much worse than they did before. So at this point, your mid to late 2010s trip to Walt Disney World might have some additional context. Perhaps you even know where you land on this distribution graph, and I can probably predict your opinion on the entire subject based on that. If you were here, booking 60 days in advance and then riding 8 or more attractions per day, I imagine that you enjoyed Fast Pass Plus. If you were here, not using the system, facing astronomical standby wait times and thus only experiencing between 0 and 2 attractions per day, you probably didn't like Fast Pass Plus. Now, these two sides might have some opinions on the other. If you didn't use the system to its full effect, you might have been waiting in long standby lines, watching hordes of guests in the Fast Pass line cut you just because they researched the tips and tricks and were able to pay for an on-property hotel. Those using Fast Pass Plus to their advantage believed it was those people's fault for not doing their research and using the system that was available to everyone, despite that system requiring a certain amount of time, energy, technological literacy, English proficiency, and money for on-site hotels. Even if you benefited and loved Fast Pass, the truth is that it only worked so well for these people because it worked so poorly for these people. Otherwise, most everyone would be here in the middle. But since this is not the case, a palpable disdain exists between both camps of guests. In queuing theory, this is called Within the Disney parks, there has become a class system, just like in the real world, except for this one is silly, mostly inconsequential, and you aren't forced to live in it like a nightmare you can't wake up from. The class system at the Disney parks, for a long time, wasn't based on money. After the discontinuing of the A through E ticket systems, all guests had equal access as long as they could pay for the price of admission. As we discussed earlier, the in-park currency is time, and any advantage came from knowledge. Those that read the guidebooks, knew the parks, and planned their trips had a leg up on other guests. But apart from paying for a tour, guests knew to rush for Space Mountain in the
God, there are people writing guidebooks for Disneyland? They publish them? What? Come on, man.
go into the left lane when available, experience the rides with the longest waits during a parade or fireworks, and so on and so on. In Shapeland, under no Fast Pass, it takes guests an average of 6.5 hours to experience the top 6 attractions. If people showed up earlier in the day, they would have a jump on other guests. But for the most part, there are no hard lines separating visitors. This was introduced with the original paper Fast Pass, but this was still a system that was free, with knowledge still being the dividing factor. This is how long it takes on average for a guest to do the top 6 attractions at Shapeland, but this time with paper Fast Pass. Here we see the different knowledge classes emerge. This is split between those that know the system in and out, those that know how to use the system on a basic level, and those that did not use the system at all. Those that knew the system best could do the 6 attractions in less than 4 hours. Those that knew the basics of the system could do the 6 attractions in 6 hours. And those that didn't use the system would have to spend 8 hours in order to experience the 6 attractions. Money was reintroduced into the equation with FastPass Plus. Guests that stayed on property would get to book 60 days in advance as a perk of their stay. And if they utilized this perk, they could experience Shapeland's 6 attractions in less than 4 hours. Those that understood the system but had to book within the 30-day window as opposed to the 60-day window would have to spend 6 hours to do Shapeland's 6 attractions. And those that did not use FastPass Plus at all would have to spend 10 hours on average to do these attractions. And this is not accounting for walking, meals, bathroom breaks, or any other non-attraction activity. The disparity between these 3 systems and their categories of access is staggering, and it showed just how much FastPass Plus favored those that got premier access to the system. But you might be thinking, this doesn't mean anything. Shapeland isn't a real park. These are just fake numbers you made up. But that's not actually true, because Shapeland is actually Animal Kingdom. The triangle
What a
is Flight
twist.
of Passage, the square is Expedition Everest, the circle is Navi River Journey, and so on. More than that, the entire simulation is based off of a specific day at Animal Kingdom, Saturday, March 23rd, 2019, a day with medium-high crowds. We adjusted the dynamic factors of the system to replicate this day as closely as possible, and then simply turned off FastPass and examined the differences. So all of these results, including this graph, is based off of Animal Kingdom, with the top 6 attractions being Flight of Passage, Kilimanjaro Safaris, Expedition Everest, Navi River Journey, Dinosaur, and Kali River Rapids. For good measure, we also simulated Magic Kingdom and observed the same results. And while the park's more diverse set of attractions helped to mitigate
Recently witnessed a gore film called The Sadness. Gore film, huh? What an interesting genre. Nothing but something I have seen in daily form. Daily and horror fantasy. It's interesting. Less too much war.
effects of the system in some areas, all of the basic patterns we observed were the same as with Animal Kingdom. So this disparity is real and has created rigid categories of preference among park guests. While the system does not treat everyone the same, it should be noted that not all of Walt Disney World's guests are the same. For instance, you have families that save up for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to the resort. You have regular vacationers that come every year or two, and then you have annual pass holders that might go multiple times a month. Many argue, with good reason, that a system that gives preference to these once-in-a-lifetime vacationers is necessary. And a system with a distribution like this might seem like the solution, while a distribution graph like this might seem like it's treating everyone almost too equally. However, this conclusion ignores many factors we've learned about queuing, such as capacity and demand. Let's use an analogy. So there's a company that makes shoes, and you have 2 potential customers. Customer 1 really wants the shoes. Customer 2 does not feel strongly about the shoes. If the shoe company offered the shoes for $30, customer 1 would buy them, because they really want the shoes. And since $30 is a great deal for a pair of shoes, customer 2 would buy them as well. However, if the shoes cost $100, customer 1 would still buy them, because they really want the shoes. But since customer 2 doesn't feel strongly about them, they would pass on the offer. Now let's say the shoe store offered customer 2 the shoes for $30, while offering customer 1 the shoes for $200. Customer 2 would take their offer, despite not caring for the shoes, and customer 1 would also take their offer, because they really want the shoes. Rather than simply using supply and demand to find a fixed price to maximize profits, many companies will find ways to maximize profits via price discrimination, especially when there is an excess of supply. But as it applies to queuing, we're not trying to maximize wait times, we're trying to minimize them. While it sounds like a good idea to give preference to once-in-a-lifetime vacationers, while those that visit frequently are favored less, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to enforce this. And with the way FastPass Plus was set up, it often produced the exact opposite results. Instead of priority access going to once-in-a-lifetime vacationers, with secondary access going to those making semi-regular trips, and with remaining or no access given to those making regular visits, the actual categories often looked like this, with semi-regular visitors that understood the system booking 60 days in advance, regular visitors and annual pass holders without reservations booking within the 30-day window, and once-in-a-lifetime vacationers often finding themselves out of luck, not realizing that they needed a bachelor's degree from My Magic Plus University with a major in FastPass Plus. So dynamic system, great in theory, not so much in practice. And while this distribution might not look good at first glance, it often produces better results, because while there is
Is he playing Warless Safe? Well, probably not. I have a lot of things that I have to catch up on. I also kind of had like an exhausting day at work. So, I'm probably gonna work on some stuff and then go to bed. So, I'm probably not gonna go too long today. Tomorrow, I'll be back though. Tomorrow, I'll be back and we'll do Mass Effect. But today, I'm probably gonna have to forego Borderlands. I got like 3 hours of sleep last night. I worked all day. It really threw off my schedule, and I've got a lot of stuff I had to catch up on for work and stuff like that. So, probably not
no
tonight.
system in place separating guests, guests are still self-separating. The person that comes once in a lifetime gets to ride the top 6 rides in a little over 6 hours, while the annual pass holder or semi-regular visitor likely will choose to not ride the top 6 rides in a single day because they go so often. The guest that comes once a month will probably not ride Kilimanjaro safaris if it has a 90-minute wait, but they would if it had a 15-minute wait. And because they come so often, they know the system, which means they can get a 15-minute wait. And this family who comes once every 3 years is determined to ride Kilimanjaro safaris no matter the wait. But because they come so infrequently, they don't know the system, so they have to wait longer, which they do because they don't visit that often. And to raise the stakes, for the regular visitor with an annual pass, the cost of their visit is abstract, as they paid a fixed annual price and likely already got their money's worth, while this family knows exactly how much it costs for them and their children to be inside of the park that day, increasing the pressure to get their money's worth, thus increasing the amount of time they are willing to wait. And because the capacity of rides are determined by design and operation, the supply is finite. So this exact scenario plays out over and over again, to the point where someone might just wonder, hey, if you have a limited amount of shoes to sell, stop giving them to people that don't want them for $30. Instead, just get rid of the system and let people self-select. Some rides will have long waits, some rides will have short waits, but at least everyone will be making a personal decision based on the context of their visit, and not how good they are at playing the My Disney Experience app as if it were a slot machine. I know that some might disagree with this conclusion. There you are. And I understand there's a level of subjectivity. Your experiences
funny.
are not incorrect. FastPass Plus allowed guests that were not frequent visitors to have incredible vacations. But based on the evidence both in the simulation and in real life, the truth is that, in practice, FastPass Plus was not a more fair system than no system, and it often was the opposite. Perhaps the best compromise between FastPass Plus and a no FastPass park is, unsurprisingly, the original paper FastPass system in its initial limited capacity. This retains the guest distribution benefits of the system, while also maintaining the natural self-selection process that guests go through when making decisions. Most importantly, while knowledge remains a dividing factor among guests, the original FastPass system reset every single day. With FastPass Plus, when guests arrived at the resort, it was too late to educate them on the system. FastPasses for the most popular rides had already been gone for months. With paper FastPass, guests might find themselves unaware of the system on day 1 of their vacation, but they could quickly learn it and be utilizing it by day 2. This is why Disneyland's MaxPass system was more favorable to many guests. It was essentially the original FastPass system, except for digital rather than physical, the only caveat being that it cost money to utilize, which was its most divisive aspect. The original paper FastPass was an idea that was birthed from within operations. while FastPass Plus, by all indications, was a system birthed from marketing. Its intention was not to make operations more smooth within the park. Its purpose was to be a key part of a larger guest experience initiative. So it should not be shocking to suggest, based on all of the evidence that we have viewed, that guests and operations would fare better without FastPass Plus. But what am I talking about? They spent $1 billion on this. They're not getting rid of anything. So,
That's funny. Okay, I have to be right back. I have to do a last name and wash my hands real quick. And then I'll probably do some just chatting and stuff like that. Do you have to be right back? Real quick. And just a little bit here, okay? Okay, you'll be on back. Well, that's annoying. But if I do it... Ooh. We actually have to sing? Yes. We do. I eat it. You are my Messiah. Okay. Shall I spat? Be able to, well, this again. Hey, Grim. Dun. Hi, Grim. Raid! True Seiji, thank you for the raid. You mainly by tracking, but thank you for the raid. Hello. Go show True Seiji some love. Thank you for the raid. Thank you. How's your stream? How are things going with you? Stephen Hawking? What? Yes. I was gonna play some FiveM and then some Lethal Company. Oh, nice. It's very, very nice. Thank you again for stopping by. Nothing's being weird today. I don't know why. Yes. Today we are kind of just doing some background work. So, it's kind of just a chill, just chatting stream. So, we're kind of just hanging out tonight. Eden, you can do here real quick. Maybe try something else here. There's no music and I'm being quiet. I am thinking on something with the fire walking in. Annoying. Really annoying. Very, very annoying. Why is this not working? Well, oh. It's not working. We won't take your shoes. Blah, 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 blah. Do it. I am currently like hardcore locked in. So if that works. Let's see if that works. I think it did. Okay. I think it did, which means I can turn this back on. Okay. Why is there not? What? Why is there? What? Something they like. What's that? There we go. Bikes. Oh. Oh. No, so why can't I like this? What is going on? Why can't I select this? Now I can. I was treating it like an inmate. This isn't it. Really, really fun. Okay, so this doesn't even work. What's it doing? What is it doing? Oh, there's a lot. Oh, yay, stop. But it's like... Okay, so where does mine I would like to delete this text box. Can I do that? What? Wow. What? Yeah. Major brownie. So... need to appropriately space this out. So are these spaces inside? I'm addicted to Cult of the Lamb. My stream says Ray, of course. What's it, Hex? Yeah, it's just a chill stream. I'm working on something in the background here. I went to write skills and I wrote Skelly by accident. Yes, just a quiet chill stream today. I'm actually probably not gonna get too much longer. I'm gonna finish this and probably head to bed. Cool. Atmosphere again? Yeah, wonder. That's funny. Yeah, an Avatar inspired by that game. Oh, that's kind of cool, actually. Lurking on? Just something in the background. Something pertaining to my IRL life that I cannot show. We should harass Foss. I gotta finish this one thing tonight. We can all leave first. Yeah. Nearly done? And one, maybe. We're getting close. So, not quite. Oh. P2. CPIVIAIPIS, yes. Oh, Phoenix. Yeah, Nat. Ooh, rip. Right now, we're just hanging out while we're working on some new backline. And just chilling for the moment. You're funny, Lily, you're funny. Mm. When you wasn't anything stupid for 10 seconds, I'm okay, man. Thank you, though. Yeah. Oh. And this, like... Yeah, open it up, please. Need to shall be larger than Twitch chat one of these days. It already is larger. How's it going? It's going right. My YouTube chat is way larger than Twitch chat. What's up, Phoenix? Welcome to YouTube chat. Bonus. Right there. That text box. That one. These be your sub normally, or is it just because you're on stream? Oh, I do this all the time. I'm very much a yapper to myself. Talion. I actually had to, like, stop myself from, like, saying some things just on stream. Because, like, I just naturally talk to myself. And so I've had to, like, stop myself from being like, here's my credit card information, or here's my social security. I've had to stop myself from getting, like, fucked. Yes, I do mumble to myself all the time. It's just part of what I do. It is what makes Tali special. Yes. Okay, I think that looks really good. Yeah. It's one of my silly little quirks. I talk to myself. Oh no! Stop! Stop going! Stop! Let's go. Alright, let's see what happened. A text box was moving off screen without my input, and now I can't move it at all. So that's fun. Delete. Get rid of this text box, please! I'm going to scrape it! I beg of you, please do not crash. I can't delete this. I can't delete this text box. Oh no. Dude. Oh, I'm so annoyed. I'm just putting all this work to edit this. And now it's frozen and I can't edit it. So annoying. I hate you, Adobe. I hate you. I hate you so much. Genuinely frozen. Then I literally, I hate you, Adobe. I hate you with my entire being. I'm so scared to, like, refresh. Because I don't know if it'll save or not. In order to download it, it's asking me to make an account, and I don't want to do that. I hate you, Adobe. I really, really do. I'm hoping it didn't just delete all of my progress. I would like to select this text box. I wonder if I can just make the quick changes right here. Oh, cute. Am I gonna have to restart all of this? Adobe, you suck! I hate Adobe so much. I genuinely do. They make me so mad. Luckily, I can't copy or anything. Oh my god, I hate Adobe. I hate Adobe. Don't want to create a giant. I don't want to create a kill. I want to... Okay, let me... Doing... I'm... I think I figured it out. Figured out a 6, I think. I don't want to create a password. I don't want to... Just let me... Oh my gosh. Just let me download my file. Please, dude. Oh, oh gosh, dude. Let me download my file. I hate you, Adobe. I hate you. None of your products work correctly. I hate you. I hate Adobe so much. I hate them so much. Why have buttons if they don't work? They don't work. Why have them? I'm gonna throw my head against the wall, dude. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna lose my damn frickin' mind. Can I just do this? Shut up. Get out of here. Adobe made a couple changes, so maybe I can just do them real quick. Adobe, you genuinely make me so infuriated. I do all of these changes, and it goes, sorry, we're breaking now. Sorry, none of the buttons you click are going to work. Sorry. Like, I can't do anything. It's completely frozen. If I refresh, it's gonna delete all of my progress. Send me an email. They're dead. You're signing me up, but I can't do anything with it. Why do the buttons not work? I hate you, Adobe. I hate you. Use the product I paid for. Ugh, great. I know. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm trying to, like, hurry, because I don't know if it's just, like, gonna crash here soon or not. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? That's fun. What the? What the heck? Hi, Hex. Thank you for standing by. I hate you, Adobe. Delete it. Get rid of it. Get it? No. Delete. Okay. Why? Just why? I'm selecting multiple things here, Adobe. Hey, Adobe, let's do what I'm telling you to do, please. I'm begging you. There, that's fine. Didn't need you anymore. Don't need you anymore. Don't need you anymore. This works. Thing. Look at you going backwards. Don't be so weird, dude. What? Here, I don't be silence, bro. Okay. Alright, close to being done. But Fane, we are just chatting while I'm working on something in the background. I'm actually about to end here just a little bit. I'm just trying to finish this one thing. see, what else do I do? I think that should be good. Contest? No. I'm just working on something in the background. I'm like over locked in right now. And that's why I'm staring just directly at the screen. I don't like the spacing on that. The K. What? Holy shit. Okay, so that's done. Finally I'm done. Holy, I hate you, Adobe. Really the worst program ever. I knew my soul where I was soul right into my winged cheese. Hi there, Andy. I will say y'all kinda came at a bad time, cause I am about to head to bed. So we're about to end here. Yes, good night. I'm very sleepy. I am going to head to bed. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope it was silly. And even though it was kind of a quiet, relaxed stream, we didn't really do much today, and I know. I just had some stuff I urgently had to take care of and stuff like that. You know. You know. Mhm. Mhm. This to myself real quick. And that was more. What? That was fun to have. And I hope y'all enjoy and stuff like that. I know it's kind of not lazy, kind of. Hey, that kind of gist. Stuff like that. I'm very tired. I had some stuff I had to work on today, surprisingly, but I'm heading to bed. I hope you guys enjoyed and stuff like that. I love you so much. I will see you very, very soon.